I'm hoping that there will be a successor, a second Edward Said professor. But in the current atmosphere, it's impossible to say what will happen. I fear for Middle East studies in the United States generally. The willingness of governments to kowtow to these pressures, which are pressures that come both from the base of the Republican Party, evangelicals, people who believe Israel is right irrespective of what it does, but also very powerful Israel lobby, which has purchase with our politicians. Our politicians are in most cases not willing to do what their constituents want. They do what AIPAC tells them. They do what big donors tell them. And that's a particular problem with older members of the leadership of both parties, certainly the Democratic Party, the overwhelming majority of whose base is fervently pro-Palestinian, or at least supports Palestinian rights. Fervently pro-Palestinian is too much. It supports Palestinian rights and is critical of Israel. Has absolutely no voice in the leadership of the Democratic Party, and certainly not in the leadership of the Republican Party. But at least the Republican Party is true to its base, which includes a large number of evangelicals in the South and West who really strongly support Israel. Most Democrats don't strongly support Israel anymore. But the leadership, the Schumers and the Jeffries and the Clyburns and so on and so forth, the Bidens and the Pelosi's, all of those folks, those aged gerontocrats who run the Democratic Party, are blindly support Israel and have always done so. So there's a huge gap, especially in the Democratic Party. It's growing in the Republican Party. Younger Republicans are much more critical, according to the polling that recently has been coming out, than are older Republicans. But the majority of Republicans are very supportive of Israel. Majority of Democrats are not. And the people who supposedly represent us don't represent them. They represent money, they represent power, they represent other interests. They represent their aged, feeble understanding of the Middle East derived in the 1960s and 70s when they were young people. And we're now in the 2020s. And maybe they should wake up and smell the coffee and understand that Israel is not some pristine beacon of democracy in the Middle East. It's an aggressor state that's attacked 9 or 10 Middle Eastern capitals in the past 30 or 40 years, that has oppressed the Palestinians since 1948. And it has done this with American support, such that the United States is guilty of all of these war crimes and all of these crimes against humanity that are being perpetrated today in Gaza.
Just a final question, or final two questions. I'm trying to get a sense of your take on where things stand from kind of quite a broad historical view. I mean, this is the most violent episode in Palestine since the Nakba began. You have the genocide in Gaza. You have rampant attacks, apartheid policies, colonial expansion in the West Bank, in Jerusalem. Israel's bombing Lebanon on an almost daily basis. Hezbollah has been severely weakened. Syria's military capability has been decimated. Iran has been attacked and bombed. You have normalization with the Gulf states and Arab countries, with the exception of Yemen, not really doing anything. Are we in another 1967 moment where Israel significantly expands its territorial control, entrenches itself, enters into a new era of regional dominance as a colonial power? Or, as we've talked about, is the pariah status of Israel, has it grown to such a degree? Has the myth of Zionism been shattered? And is this the beginning of the end of the Zionist project? Obviously, I know this is a very big question, but where do you see this heading in this moment?
I mean, I'm going to begin with my usual disclaimer. The job description of a historian doesn't include predicting the future. I have no idea where this is going to go. Obviously, I have some sense of where it is going right now. Both of the alternatives that you sketched out are actually true. Israel is the strongest that it's ever been in the region. It dominates the region from the Gulf to the Atlantic. It has client regimes in countries like Morocco and the United Arab Emirates, and submissive, subservient regimes in Cairo and Amman. It's bombed and attacked systematically Lebanon and Syria, and it's attacking Palestine constantly. It's attacking Yemen. It's attacked Iran. And it's done so with the full support of the United States, with American bombs. Every single Israeli warplane is American. Every single Israeli attack helicopter is American. Those weapons cannot be used offensively by U.S. law, and nobody seems to be bothered by their violation as senators and congresspeople of U.S. law in allowing Israel to do that. So, on the one hand, Israel is militarily bestrides the region like a giant. Iran has been reduced. Turkey is the only other power in the Middle East, really. The other countries are midgets compared to Israel. On the other hand, if you understand the historic connection between the Zionist project and later the State of Israel and its Western backers, the fact that overwhelming majorities of public opinion in the West oppose Israel for the first time in history since the beginning of the Zionist project, it has always enjoyed massive majority public support in every single Western country. This is no longer the case. It could change back, but as of this moment in time, in 2025, Israel is at the lowest, by far the lowest point in terms of support in the countries that constitute its metropole, the white settler colonies, Europe, and especially the United States. You've never had a situation like this in the entire history since way back when Theodore Herzl launched the idea of political Zionism back in 1897. Until today, you have never had, 128 years, you have never had a situation where there was overwhelming opposition. In some European countries, the support for Israel is in the 10s and 15% range. This has never happened before. And if this continues, there is a fundamental, irresolvable problem for Israel. It cannot operate without massive, continuous Western support. It does not have the capability to do that. Its economy is entirely dependent on the West. Its military is entirely dependent on the United States and partly dependent on Western Europe. And its economy is tied to Europe. It's the biggest trade partner of Europe. As those countries shift, if their peoples are able to force their craven, cowardly, corrupt politicians to do the right thing, which is a big ask, obviously. Politicians don't do what their peoples necessarily want. The American politicians continued the war in Iraq long after public opinion turned against the war in Iraq, and continued the war in Vietnam long after public opinion turned against the war in Vietnam. They can continue to do that for quite a while, but sooner or later, if this shift in public opinion continues, Israel is going to be forced to face a drastic future where it cannot continue to do what it's doing. I only hope that people will rise up and tell their governments, we do not support what you are allowing Israel to do. And that's not an easy thing to do. I understand that. You had people in New York City occupying the offices of Senators Schumer and Gillibrand, both of whom voted against halting weapons to Israel, even though 20 other Democratic senators, a majority of Democratic senators for the first time, voted to stop American arms sales to Israel. There are many other things that have to be done. This is the most urgent moral issue as far as the United States is concerned. I'm not saying there are not more urgent moral issues. The United States is not funding and supporting and providing bombs to kill people in Sudan or to slaughter people in Rwanda or Congo or in Myanmar. Those are what is being done by China to the Uyghurs, or what is being done by Russia in Ukraine. Those are situations completely out of American control. This is in American control. The United States controls this. The United States can decide, stop now. And it will stop. It will have to stop. They have no choice but to stop. You just stop the weapons flow. Stop the 155 millimeter artillery shells. Stop the 2,000-pound bombs. Stop the resupply of spare parts for the F-35s and the F-15s and the F-16s. And the war stops tomorrow. But our politicians are, as of this moment, not willing to do that, even though that's the will of the people and has been for now quite a while, it seems.